What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here to break down the NFL Week 10 wide receivers on Draftkings. Got a big week for wide receivers. There's a lot of really good wide receivers. I was sorting through this morning, and there was just a ton of them that I was really I need to talk about this guy, I need to talk about this guy, I need to talk about this guy. So got a lot to get into. Before I do, if you're new here, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to that channel. It takes 2 seconds of your time, and it really helps me out, and it's free to you guys. So please be sure to do that. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you want to get more of my content, you can always subscribe to my Patreon. I'll put the link in the description below. $10 a month just for a bunch of stats, rankings, articles for everything. So be sure to check that out as well. We'll start it with Stefan Diggs for the Buffalo Bills going up against the Arizona Cardinals. This is one of the, or right now, the highest total game on the slate at 56. He's going to get an individual matchup with Patrick Peterson, who really is not what Patrick Peterson used to be at all. He has not been good at all this year or last year. He's just kind of at the end of his career. This game, as we said already, 56 game total. The Cardinals are allowing the 17th most points to opposing wide receivers. For Stefan Diggs, he has 20 red zone targets right now and 5 end zone targets. So those red zone targets are big. Those are high upside targets. because you want to get touchdowns. Touchdowns are what get the most points in fantasy. When you're looking at targets, he's averaging 9.1 targets per game with John Brown, and John Brown is in this game. He's missed some games, so he's averaging 9.1 targets per game, so definitely getting a ton of volume. He's a little bit expensive, but I think he's definitely worth a play, and especially I feel like he's going to be a lot lower owned than someone like Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins. So there's just some guys that are going to be really highly owned at the top, and Stefan Diggs may not be one of them, so under-owned Stefan Diggs may be a good place to go. Devontae Parker is up next. The Miami Dolphins are facing the LA Chargers this week. This game total is set at 48, but like I've said in previous videos, I believe this game could score more points than that. Both these teams are high-powered offenses and 2 defenses that really aren't that good. However, the Chargers have been pretty solid against wide receivers this year, only allowing the 22nd most amount of points to wide receivers. Devontae Parker is going to get a match with Casey Hayward, who is honestly having the worst year of his career. Hasn't really been as great of a cornerback, but the thing that really makes me like Devontae Parker is his usage. So, Preston Williams is out this week. He got hurt in the middle of the game last week, and we saw pretty much Tua just throwing the ball to Devontae Parker after he got hurt. He got hurt late in the game, but after that, it was just Devontae Parker. He's going to be the number 1 target for him. He had 7 targets last week, but I can totally see that getting to 10 targets this week. Tua really likes Devontae Parker, clearly. Going to be his number 1 option, especially without Preston Williams, so I think he is a very good play. Like him as a one-off, love him if you're going to do Tua stacks, I like Tua stacks with him. If you're running Miami Dolphins back with Justin Herbert stack, I like Devontae Parker as well in that. So I think Parker is a very good option. Jarvis Landry is facing off against the Houston Texans, who are just one of the worst defenses in the league this year. This game total is at 53.5. They are slight favorites over the Houston Texans. Baker Mayfield got activated off the COVID list yesterday, so he is going to be playing this game. The Houston Texans are allowing the 7th most points to opposing wide receivers. He's going to get a matchup in the slot against Eric Murray. He is a safety and / slot corner, so playing a little bit of both. He's solid, nothing really to worry about at all for me with Jarvis Landry. When you go look at his usage, he does have 13 red zone targets and 3 end zone targets on the year. Pretty solid usage. And then without Odell Beckham, last week we saw him get 11 targets, or 2 weeks ago actually, last week they had a bye. We saw him get 11 targets, dropped a ton of balls, but he's clearly going to be the number 1 guy in this offense now. And if we're going to see 10 to 11 targets per game now, I think he becomes a very good option. I do like Jarvis Landry a lot. I don't think a lot of people are going to be on him this week. I think he's going to go a little bit under-owned because he's in this price range where there is going to be a ton of value. So I don't think we're going to see Jarvis Landry getting a ton of ownership, but I think he could be a very solid option here. Now we're going to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers trio of receivers, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and Juju Smith-Schuster. They're going to be facing off against the Cincinnati Bengals this year, who have allowed the 15th most points to opposing quarterbacks. They are slight favorites in this game with a 48.5 game total. This is definitely a game I think that also has a little bit more potential to shoot out because the Bengals have put up a ton of points this year. We have Chase Claypool is going to get a matchup on the outside with Darius Phillips. Deontay Johnson is going to get a matchup with the toughest cornerback in William Jackson, and Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be in the slot against Mackenzie Alexander. Really not too worried about any of these corners. Nothing really to talk about there. When you go look at the usage, Chase Claypool only averaging 5.6 targets per game when all these guys are in, but the last 2 weeks he's seen 9 and 13, definitely becoming more used in that offense. Deontay Johnson averaging 10.2 targets per game, and Juju's averaging 8.6. I don't think I like Juju as much just because he's cheaper than these guys, more expensive than these guys, and he's seeing less volume. So Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool are two of my favorite plays on the slate. I think Juju's fine too, but I absolutely love, especially Deontay Johnson. At 5,200, he's going to get you 10 targets. I mean, we've seen literally in the 4 games he's played, or 5 games he's played, 4 of them, 10, 15, 13, and 10. And he was banged up in this game. He played, but he was hurting. So, and he had a matchup with Marcus Peters, one of the best corners in the league. That was against the Ravens. So, Deontay Johnson, one of the best plays on the slate, in my opinion. I think he's an absolute steal here. Great cash play, great tournament option. I like Claypool in tournaments. I like Juju in tournaments as well. Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller are going to be the next wide receivers I'm interested in going up against. The Cleveland Browns. This game is a 53.5 game total, and they are slight underdogs in this game. The Cleveland Browns have allowed the 5th most points to opposing wide receivers this year. And Will Fuller is going to kind of get a tougher matchup against Denzel Ward, but I'm really not too worried about it. And then Brandon Cooks is going to get Terrence Mitchell. This team's just giving up points. I mean, this is going to be a game that I love. I've already talked about in the quarterback videos how much I love Deshaun Watson stacks, and these are the guys I want to stack him with. Both getting usage in the red zone and the end zone. Well, not as much in the end zone for Cooks, but 12 red zone targets for Brandon Cooks, 14 for Fuller, then only 1 end zone target for Cooks and 5 for Fuller. That's why Fuller's a little bit more expensive, but both of them are still really good plays in my opinion. Both of them averaging 7.42 targets per game. That's actually kind of crazy that they're averaging the same amount of targets per game right now, but Brandon Cooks has definitely been the usage guy the last few weeks. I mean, 9 targets each of the last few games. Will Fuller's kind of starting to slow down, but I think both of them are really, really good options. Getting the volume, getting the usage where you want it, and a very good matchup. Jerry Jeudy and the Denver Broncos going to face the Las Vegas Raiders this week. This total is set at 51.5, and the Broncos are slight underdogs. The Raiders have allowed the 14th most points to opposing wide receivers so far this year, and Jerry Jeudy is going to get a nice matchup. If he's on the out, he plays a little bit in the slot and on the outside. Going to get some LaMarcus Joyner and some Trayvon Mullen. Not worried about either of those. Great slot matchup. LaMarcus Joyner's been bad this year. He has 13 red zone targets this year and 5 end zone targets. And when we're looking at usage, he's averaging 7.62 targets per game. But look, the last 2 games, 10 and 14 targets. Jerry Jeudy's starting to become a feature in this offense. And now, I mean, in both those games, they were playing from behind by a lot. But, I mean, I still don't think that really matters. I mean, this is, number, 10, 11 overall draft pick, something like that. First round pick that they want to use. And they're starting to use him more. So I think Jerry Jeudy is going to continue to get the usage. And I think he's still at a little bit cheap of price where I want to get to him, and he is in a good matchup. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams for the LA Chargers are going to face off against the Miami Dolphins this week. This is definitely a game where I've already talked about how much I want to like the Justin Herbert stacks, and these are the 2 guys I want to stack him with. The Miami Dolphins are allowing the 13th most points to opposing wide receivers, and Keenan Allen plays the majority of his snaps in the slot, which means he's going to get Nick Needham, one of the worst cover corners in the league so far this year. So, absolute stud of a play. Mike Williams, we all know, I mean, he's just always going to have the upside. When you go look at the red zone targets, Keenan Allen is 15, Mike Williams is 13, but Mike Williams has 7 end zone targets and 6 end zone targets for Keenan Allen. When you look at overall usage, Keenan Allen's averaging 12 targets per game, while Mike Williams is only averaging 5.33. But Mike Williams is always going to have the deep threat, the usage in the end zone. So he's definitely someone I still like to stack with Justin Herbert. I always like playing Mike Williams. This is kind of a guy that both these 2 are always just in play for me. It seems like every single week. So I definitely want to get some shares of both of them. Sterling Shepard has emerged as number 1 guy in New York, aside from Darius Slayton. They're going to be going up against the Philadelphia Eagles, who have allowed the 18th most points to opposing wide receivers this year. And Sterling Shepard plays majority in the slot, where he's going to face Nikhil Roby-Coleman, who has really just not been as good as I think everyone expected him to be this year. So this is a pretty solid matchup for him in the slot. When you go get usage in the games he's played, he's averaging 7.2 targets per game. When he plays, he is the most targeted guy on the team. So Sterling Shepard is definitely someone I like. I don't think a lot of people are going to play him. Probably going to be lower owned. Pretty solid matchup. Travis Fulgham on the other side of the game, and then Jalen Reagor as well are 2 guys I'm interested in Philly. You're going to have Travis Fulgham on the outside against James Bradbury, who's a tough cover corner, but we saw him have a good game against the Giants a few weeks ago, so I'm not really too worried there. The emergence of Jalen Reagor, I really like this guy. I think he's a really, really talented player, and he's just too cheap. So I really want to get some exposure to him as well. When we go look at the usage for these guys, we've seen Fulgham averaging 8.8 targets per game, and in the 1 game Reagor's played, since the beginning of the year, he's been out for a while. So since he's come back, he saw 6 targets. Was that against the Giants too? I don't remember exactly who that was against. Might have been against the Giants. Anyway, or was it against? It was against Dallas. Never mind. Yeah, it was against the Cowboys. So Reagor, 6 targets. I mean, he's too cheap. I definitely want to get some exposure to him. If you're playing Wentz stacks, which I don't know if I really want to go there, but you can. That's definitely these are the two I want to get to along with Dallas Goedert, who we'll talk about in tight end videos tomorrow. But Jalen Reagor, Travis Fulgham both look like very solid options to me. Terry McLaurin, they're going to be facing off against the Detroit Lions this week, who have allowed 19th most points to opposing quarterbacks. The Detroit Lions are averaging allowing 3.75 touchdowns per game to opposing teams. So I like that. Jeff Okudah is going to be a corner guarding Terry McLaurin, who's been terrible this year. It's their number 3 overall pick, who's been terrible this year. Terry McLaurin's been an absolute stud so far this year. When you go get his usage, he has 14 red zone targets on the year and 4 end zone targets. He's getting usage where you need it. He's averaging 9.625 targets per game. We've seen some games where he eclipses 10 targets. I don't know if this is going to be the game for it, but Terry McLaurin's always someone who just kind of goes under-owned, who's always getting usage. He's always pretty consistent, and he can break a long play like he did last week. So I'm always interested in Terry McLaurin. I think he's always a good play. Definitely going to want to go back there. So Kenny Galladay's an interesting one. He's questionable right now. We're going to see if Kenny Galladay plays. But the Washington football team has been like the best team against receivers this year. Kendall Fuller's been the best cover corner according to PFF, second best cover corner according to PFF behind Jair Alexander so far this year. It's a tough matchup for Kenny Galladay, but I feel like Kenny Galladay is kind of one of those players that just kind of seems to be matchup proof. We know he's going to get the usage in the red zone and in the end zone. But the thing with Kenny Galladay is, does he play? If he plays, he's going to get usage. 7, 8, 6, 7, 4, but that game he got hurt in the middle of the game. So we're seeing him get pretty consistent usage. It's not like elite usage, but he's in the 5K range, so like he's just too cheap. I think Kenny Galladay is a good, solid option if he plays. If he doesn't, I'm probably not going to look to any receivers in Detroit though. Devontae Adams is going to be a chalk of the week because of what Mike Davis opens up for you. The total is at 52.5 on this game. They have the highest team total on the week, over 30 for the Green Bay Packers. The Jaguars are allowing 12th most points to opposing wide receivers. He's going to get a matchup with rookie C.J. Henderson, who's been, okay, but it's still a rookie. He has 21 red zone targets and 6 end zone targets this year, and he's missed 3 games. So look, Metcalf has more, but he's played 3 games. He's missed 3 games. So Devontae Adams is averaging 13.2 targets per game. The usage is there. He's kind of like Michael Thomas a year ago, where he's just getting the usage every single week, every single game. So Devontae Adams is definitely someone I want to get a lot of exposure to. He's going to be chalky, but he just is going to have the volume, and he's in a fantastic matchup. I feel like he's hard to get off of, especially in cash. In cash, I want to play Devontae Adams as much as possible, but in tournaments, I do think he's still a very, very good play. Michael Thomas is kind of a wild card this week. I don't think anyone really knows what he's going to do. They're playing the 49ers, who have allowed the 16th most points to opposing wide receivers this year. It's an alright matchup. He's going to get a matchup with Jason Verrett, though, who has been very, very good so far this year. So that's kind of a tough spot. But when you go look at overall usage for Michael Thomas, he's averaging, in the 2 games he's played, he's averaging 5.5 targets per game. Saw 6 targets last week, but they blew out Tampa, so it wasn't really a game script where they were going to start throwing the ball a ton. So we don't really know what Michael Thomas is going to do. Actually, I feel like that's kind of encouraging that he saw 6 targets in a game where they were up by so much. That could mean if it's a little bit of a closer game, which I don't know if this game is really going to be a lot closer, he can do a little bit more. But Michael Thomas, he's not going to get ownership, and he's still Michael Thomas. And I don't see any reason to think he's just all of a sudden going to be a 6 target per game guy. So I think Michael Thomas is still a very good option. Chris Godwin going against Carolina Panthers. This is a great spot in my opinion. Carolina's allowed the 26 most points to opposing wide receivers. They've actually been a pretty solid defense this year, but Chris Godwin's going to be in the slot against Corn Elder or Jeremy Chin, one of those two rookies. Chris Godwin should be able to eat them alive. He's averaging, in the games he's played, 7, 6, 7, 9, 6 targets, averaging 7 a game right now. I think he probably sees more than we think on the year if he plays every game this year. So I think Chris Godwin's still a very good option. I like his matchup in the slot. I think he's got some usage. He's not going to be owned. I think that's a good play. DeAndre Hopkins is probably going to be pretty popular this week. In the opposite of that Stefan Diggs game, the total on this game is set at 56. The Bills actually have been a pretty good defense against opposing wide receivers, though, allowing only 24th most points to opposing wide receivers. He's going to get a matchup with Tre'Davious White, who's been one of the better corners in the league for the last few years. Had a rough matchup against DK Metcalf last week, but everybody's had a rough spot against DK Metcalf this year. DeAndre Hopkins, the thing that concerns me, only 9 red zone targets this year and only 2 end zone targets. Not getting a ton of usage down there. They kind of run the ball when they get down there, and especially when you have someone like Kyler Murray. But DeAndre Hopkins is still getting a ton of usage, averaging 9.14 targets per game. Yeah, last week he only saw 3, but for the rest of the year, we're still seeing consistent usage. I don't see any reason why that really is consistently changing down to 3. So he's in a good spot. Definitely, if you're playing Kyler Murray stacks, I love DeAndre Hopkins. I love him by himself. You're running it back running back a Bill Stacker like Hopkins, so I think he's a very good play. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods are probably my two favorite wide receiver plays of the week. They're playing for the LA Rams. They're facing off against the Seattle Seahawks, who've allowed the most points to opposing wide receivers so far this year. Robert Woods is going to get a matchup on the outside of Quentin Dunbar, who has been terrible this year, and Cooper Kupp is going to match up with DJ Reed Jr. in the slot. Both these guys getting pretty consistent usage. These guys, I've already talked about how much I like Ram stacks, but Cooper Kupp averaging 8.75 targets per game. Robert Woods only averaging 6.75 targets per game, but the usage is still consistent for these guys. Cooper Kupp definitely above Robert Woods. I love both these guys a ton. Two of my favorite plays overall. Brandon Iuke playing against the New Orleans Saints, who have allowed the 10th most points to opposing wide receivers this year. This defense started out shaky, but the last few weeks they've kind of looked better. New Orleans has. So I don't know how great of a spot this is anymore for Brandon Iuke, but no one's going to play him. He's in a good price range. Going up against Marshawn Lattimore, who's kind of been bad this year. We'll see if Deebo Samuel plays, but he doesn't play. That is a plus, averaging 6.5 targets per game this year. I think Brandon Iuke is a very solid option. And we'll close it out as we always do with the Seattle guys. Lockett, Metcalf, yeah, they're just amazing. 55.5 line on the game. They're slight underdogs in this game. I don't care if DK Metcalf's going to play against Jalen Ramsey. I don't care if Tyler Lockett's going to get Troy Hill. Two good corners. I don't care. This offense just scores points. 22 red zone targets for Metcalf, 8 end zone targets, 17 red zone targets for Lockett, 9 end zone targets for him. Just absolute great spot. Both averaging between 8 and 9 targets per game. They're going to get the usage. You can make Russell Wilson stacks okay this week because all the value of Mike Davis, probably Duke Johnson, maybe Giovanni Bernard, Malcolm Brown probably. So there's a ton of value out there that you can make these stacks without a problem. So I'm going to love going to Seattle stacks this week. It's one of my favorites. But I think that's really all I got to say on the wide receivers. Hope you guys got a lot of good information out of this video. Be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. All that stuff really helps me out. It's free to you.